Landslides caused by rainfall present a major hazard to unplanned housing communities in tropical developing countries. As people are drawn to cities in search of work, home building often takes place on marginal land, prone to landslide or flood hazard. These settlements can also increase disaster risk by removing vegetation and creating barriers to natural drainage. One possible solution was to build retaining walls, but these were found to be ineffective in the event of large, rain-induced land movements.
Well, my colleague Liz Holcomb and I, about 6 years ago, thought we could integrate all the research that we've been doing for quite a time to help people on the ground in really very trying circumstances in sort of shanty-type housing, really. Our feeling was that for landslide risk, what we can do is to reduce the risk by managing the water on those slopes, and if we do that properly, then the benefits, both they're financial obviously to major donors, they are good for the local communities because it doesn't involve their relocation and so forth in tightly knit communities. So there's a whole social good apart from a physical risk that we believe we're offsetting. As it were, we got on the plane and we went out there and we started that journey, and we did that with our own personal resources.
While we were there, we were talking to various people within the government and saying, well, how can we help you when it comes to landslides? And one of the government ministers actually pointed out a community and said, well, actually these communities on the hill slopes above the main city, they're at risk and we're worried about them, so come and have a look. And while we were there, we could see almost immediately that there was stuff that could be done. The community was called Skate Town. It was in the main city in St Lucia, and there was already a footpath project in that community. They were building footpaths, and the government gave us the chance to build some drainage as well. So we advised them where the drain should go. We did some hazard mapping with the community. We worked really closely with the community to understand what was causing the landslides.
We thought really we could come up with a methodology which we called Mosaic that we could promote to governments. We could try to persuade people in the communities to help us with, which is a very important component of what we do, and that would provide major funders, major policymakers like the World Bank, USAID, UNDP, and those partners who we've had the privilege of working with latterly, to change their view as to how we should manage landslide risk in communities.
After they returned from this successful trip, Professor Anderson found that funding and access to expertise was available from SETsquared.
I mean, we knew the science, but we didn't know the arena that we were about to play in, although we felt we had the confidence that the science we knew could play into that arena. So the SETsquared funding helped us bridge that, provided good insights, and most importantly, I think, asked us questions that we hadn't thought of before.
What we use to understand the slope is a bit of software called Chasm, which Malcolm has developed over the years and I've helped with recently. And that models the effect of water going into the slope material, into the soil, and see what effect that has on the stability. And so with the community feedback, we've added new processes into that model. So what happens when there's water coming from houses, what happens when retaining walls are built, what happens when vegetation is removed.
The process for the drainage construction is entirely done by members of that community, and that's been one of the major platforms of our thinking, that we would spend what money we can get in the communities on the ground, so they derive the benefit from employment. They would otherwise be unemployed, and they derive other social benefits in terms of learning skills, maybe tendering for work that we are able to give. So they learn a whole set of skills, not just constructing the drains.
When the project's underway, then when the construction's actually happening, it's a really good atmosphere because people are wanting to work. They want to do stuff to help themselves, and they can see that this is something that will help them, and it also sort of draws the community together. And then after the drains are built, then people will tell us that it's been a real benefit to them, that they sleep at night more easily when it's raining because they know that they're that bit safer, and they can tell that the drains are working. Every time there's a landslide that requires relocation of a community, that cost will either be paid by the government or the community, but in the case of very poor communities, it's usually the government that pays. So we know the cost of that previous landslide in the year 2000. What we've done is we've compared the cost of the projects that we've been doing and found that it's about 2% of the relocation costs. So by building drainage and reducing the landslide risk, you're hopefully avoiding this massive cost of relocation.
So the plan is certainly to roll the programme out more widely now to certainly Jamaica, which we're just about to start. There's a big World Bank programme which has been signed, about to start, and then more widely I think into Latin America.